Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dev Diary. Over the last few weeks, we've remade several games and game types, and by the end of each, our conclusion was usually something about keeping things simple, which sounds really obvious, but it is so often easy to forget. So today we're going to try putting that to the test, and for the first time in a really long time, just try to make a simple video game. So before we jump into things, remember to leave a like if you enjoy the video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Remember to also turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. So first and foremost, today's project was somewhat impromptu, and as a result, the graphics are incredibly basic. Now this is just part 1, so graphics will come later, but for now, let's get into the game proper. This is an educational game about adopting pets through the mechanics of learning to type. I'm currently thinking about calling it Cat Lady Teaches Typing. Shout out to anyone who may know where that title comes from. Anyway, the concept is very simple. The player has 3 minutes to adopt as many cats as possible. This is done by correctly typing out each cat's given name. But as often is the case, cats are temperamental, so screw up too many times and the cat will run away. And adopted cats are kept track of via score, so I guess it would be considered a score attack game. Now, our cats are simple structs with variables for a name, temperamental level, and a few more needed for behavioral purposes. For example, movement. By default, once a cat is spawned, it will automatically patrol the play area like we've done in many previous projects. If they're adopted, their direction is strictly set to the player's position, which is in the middle of the play area. And temperamental cats will basically do the opposite and run off screen. Now, when in either the adopted or runaway state, once said cat reaches their destination, they are removed from the game, which executes a common yet behemoth of a function, the find cat function. Now this function does several things. First, as the name suggests, it's a way to find a cat, often by position values provided. It also has an exception argument in case we need to ignore a certain cat from being included in that search. Why? Well, this function will also allow the player to focus on a new cat without the need to do it manually. The exception argument prevents us from focusing on that same cat 2 times in a row. And finally, the function also automatically excludes any cats who have already been adopted or angered but have yet to leave the play area. And this function in particular took the longest to get working, mostly due to its usage. The player can use the same function to manually toggle between nearby cats, as well as use it to manually select any cat in the play area with the mouse. Now, the second most complicated bit was the input system. Conceptually, it's a simple text input system. The player's input can only extend as far as the cat's given name, and each key pressed is checked for an outcome. And so basically, if the correct key is pressed, the input continues as normal, which is checked all the way until the end, to which it then switches the cat to the adopted state, and you know the rest. If an incorrect key is pressed, the cat's temper meter will increase, and once it hits 10 missed keys, which is a temporary number for now, then the cat is set to the angry state, which again does as we've already mentioned. And finally, we have a delete key, which allows the player to delete the latest input. Again, a very basic text input concept, but far from simple code-wise. Now, once 3 minutes are up, the game is over, which sets us to the game over state. And for now, it's very basic, with some text displaying the player's score and the ability to restart the game over again. And that's the concept. Very simple and straightforward. And as much as I would love to add more features to further flesh out the replayability, we have to remember that we're trying to avoid feature creep. But as it's been mentioned many times throughout, this is just part 1, and there are some extra features that will be added next time, but they are more on the visual side than mechanical. Now, I'm gonna wait until then to get into the further details, but suffice it to say that there's much more planned for the project. And hopefully, since we're, trying to keep things simple here, those ideas will come to fruition. So yeah, this was a fun little project to work on. The mechanics were a chore to get working properly, but boy was it satisfying to figure out. And getting that find cat function to work properly was very important for gameplay purposes, because the intent was to streamline the experience as much as possible. So while players can pick and choose specific cats at their leisure, anyone going for the high score can focus on typing and rely on the game to make the choices for them. But anyway, like I said, that's part 1 of the project. Part 2 will be coming soon, and in the meantime, I would love to know what you think of the cat lady teaching typing. Is this a good way to encourage people to improve their typing skills? Leave any and all thoughts in the comments. And as always, if you would like to play some other games featured previously on the channel or get early access to the weekly videos, subscribe to my Patreon. With that said, brings us to the end of today's Dev Diary, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.